Hello, welcome to the Draft Talk podcast. We're back talking all things NFL draft. We are knee deep in the draft season now, and we've got another top five for you here today. What else? What else would it be? Yeah, I'm your host, Bray. As always, joined by these two legends, Owen and Stu. How are you guys?
Yeah, all good. Coming towards that marathon run of nightly recording here on our third episode recording of the night. So we do change our clothes occasionally. If you're watching, we're not always wearing the same thing. But yeah, tight ends are a strong group, actually.
Yeah, we haven't said that for a wee while. There's been one or two big names and then a little bit of afterwards. Yeah. I think this year there's a good group. Some players that people will be familiar with because they've been talked about high up in drafts, in mock drafts and things. So yeah, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on it and see how we align on this.
Indeed. We need to apologise to the big tight end fans. Last year we didn't do a tight end top five. We ran out of time.
There was only a top one last year.
Yeah, and he did pretty well. Bowers did pretty well. He probably could have had his own episode, but we've learned our lesson. And there's some good names to talk about now. So yeah, if you don't know already, the guys have done all the scouting you could possibly want, and they've ranked their guys in a top five. So let's start off. All right, I'll let you go first this time. Your number 5 tight end in this year's draft class, please.
Yes, number 5 for me is LSU's Mason Taylor. He hasn't been the most productive of tight ends in this class, but this is a position that if you are going to rely on traits, this is the position to do so because traits do tend to translate from tight end to the NFL. He's got impressive physical attributes, high-end traits to bank on that outweigh his lesser college production. Explosive athleticism. He's got the size at 6'5", 255 pounds. Good arm length and wingspan too. That if you're able to coach him up a little bit more, make his hands more reliable, then I think there's something here. He's got sharp movements in the passing game. He's more than adequate as a run blocker. You're going to be able to play in line. He's got low pad level to get in and force rushers away. I really liked Mason Taylor. Is he going to be a huge, big option for a decade in the NFL? Probably not. But if you want a big body player who's got excellent lower half mass with really good athleticism, then I think Mason Taylor's worth a day 2 pick.
Yeah, so he's somebody who is, again, we talk about hand catchers and body catchers. I think he's a bit more of a hand catcher. So he's able to take the ball away with his frame. He's really good, again, we talk about soft spots and zone coverage, and he adjusts his routes depending on the defensive leverage. I think he's a fluid athlete for someone his size, and he can run the seam reasonably well. He can create chunk plays after the catch. He's got over 700 career yards after the catch. He does have a bit of refinement to do in the power side of things, I think. And his technique as a run blocker needs a bit of work. But I think I'm doing a bit of an O-line here and betting on traits. I had him as high as 3. I think there's a lot to work with there. I think it's just a case of putting it all together for him, and that's maybe a bit of a divergence from me from what I normally go for. But I just liked what I saw from him.
Yeah, and this is the position to do that because, say, athleticism is the tight end more than any other position banks on athleticism. And because over 68% of his receptions were first downs, so he is someone who can consistently, if used correctly, keep moving the chains. But he wasn't used half as much as at LSU as he should have been. That is a difficult thing to analyze when going through these. And LSU weren't the same teams they have been in recent seasons. So yeah, I really liked Mason Taylor. I think his athleticism outweighs the college production that he had.
Cool, Stu. You're number 5, please.
Yeah, so my number 5, again, we seem to have talked a lot about Texas players in this last couple of episodes. So Gunnar Helm, the tight end from the Texas Longhorns. So he's somebody who is again a natural catcher. He's only had 2 drops in his college career. He's really good in traffic. You can see that he's been a basketball player. He's able to box out defenders and high point the ball. He's a good route runner. He's quite shifty after the catch. He's good at blocking on the move. He can be a red zone weapon if you need him to be. I think that he does struggle against stronger defensive ends, particularly those guys who are maybe not the most slender pass rushers, but a true defensive end. If he's maybe lacks that strength for that traditional kind of Y tight end role, he probably doesn't have the most expansive route tree, and he's got kind of just average long speed. We've some really quick tight ends recently. He's not the quickest, but again, as someone who's reliable, he does the simple things well. I think he will be an option pretty early in his career. We sometimes do see tight ends take a little bit of time to find the feet in the NFL. Brock Bowers being a complete and utter alien. So I think given a little bit of time, he's someone who can step into a starting role.
Yeah, he's a very easy player to like. 6'5", 250 pounds. I think he is underappreciated amongst the tight end group. I think he is a more fluid athlete than he is explosive. I think he lacked some explosive movement. Certainly didn't offer much in terms of long speed, and I thought his functional strength was evident as a blocker. I wouldn't have said it was anything more than functional, but all skills excellent. Uses that big frame really well to get holding passes. Physical, reliable, intelligent enough as well. Is willing to pick up blitzes when needed. I had him at 6 just because I didn't see the athletic traits that I did in the other guys that I have ranked, but I think he's a player that is very, very easy to fall in love with and will be a consistent contributor at the next level.
Nice. Owen, your number 4, please.
So 4 is Elijah Arroyo from Miami for me, who is 6'4", 251 pounds. And we talk about players being underutilized. Only 35 receptions for Arroyo in 2024 for 590 yards, 7 touchdowns. But we talk about betting on traits. That's what Arroyo has. Good size, really good straight line athleticism, speed up the seam is a complete mismatch. His route running, he sells his fakes really well. He's fluid through his change of directions to create separation, almost akin to a receiver. I think he's just scratching the surface of what he could be, and it's absolutely criminal that Miami didn't use him more. Negatives, doesn't really have much of a strength profile as a blocker, but this guy is more of a receiving tight end, 4-star recruit who, just type it in, he combines the size, the speed, the athleticism. I think he'll be a really keen mismatch up against slot corners moving up the seam. So I think he is an excellent prospect who I think might go a lot higher than we expect.
We're going to have to rechristen these top 6s instead of top 5. He's just my number 6. I think Owen's covered him nicely there. I think for me, he's just a bit under physical. I think that he's willing, but he's maybe just not as strong profile as some of the others. Again, medical issues. He's had 2 seasons derailed by that left knee, same knee issues. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Is this going to be a recurrent issue for him? Sometimes a one-off injury, a freak accident or whatever, but if this is a current thing for me, and that just made me a little bit hesitant on him if this is going to be something that keeps coming back. We don't know, but he is definitely that receiving type of tight end, which teams are looking for. You're looking for mismatches, you're looking for different ways to attack the opposition, and I think he will do that effectively if he gets the opportunity to do so.
Cool, Stu. Your number 4, please.
I think I've done my number. Oh no, I haven't done my number 4, have I?
I've got Dave.
I've got muddled in my order. Harold Fanning, tight end from Bowling Green. He is someone who is a really good route runner. I think he's really technical in his routes. He's got good footwork and he's able to change that tempo and create separation when he's up against various different defensive players. He's got really good hands. He's able to maintain concentration through contact. He has really good vision when he's got the ball in his hands as well. He led all the tight ends. He had 873 yak yards and 34 broken tackles last year. So he's good with the ball in his hands. You can line him up in various. He's played as an inline in the slot, and he's played a good chunk out wide as well. Nearly 30% of his snaps. He is effective as a blocker. He's not the biggest. He's willing. He is probably slightly undersized compared to some of these other guys we're going to check as well, and his play strength might just affect his ability to be on the field for certain blocking concepts. But as a receiving tight end threat, he's exciting. I like his ability with the ball in his hands as well. And again, he just gives teams another option and another headache to match up against.
Yeah, 6'4", 230 pounds is by far the lightest of any of the guys that we'll talk about. I have no doubts this is a receiving tight end. 117 receptions, 1,555 yards, 10 touchdowns receiving in 2024. That equated for over half of Bowling Green's entire offensive yardage. This guy was the Bowling Green offense, and I think he lacked some long speed, which he was able to escape at Bowling Green's level that he wouldn't escape in the NFL. Sorry. That he was able to escape tackles that I think you would have been on the floor if you were in the NFL. But really strong receiver with a refined and large route tree. He'll be a passing mismatch nightmare from the slot, where you'll be able to scheme him up. Versatile enough to do different route concepts. And he's not going to be this traditional NFL receiver, but if you're a team who is looking to create a difference maker in an offense, that's what I think Harold Fanning could be, where you're one mismatch away or one player away from being able to slot this guy in, and that is what's going to unlock your entire offense, because defenders are going to have to account for so many more weapons.
Yeah, you're going to really have to think about, are you going to put a linebacker on him? He's not going to be as quick. Are you going to put a corner on him because they're quicker, but they're not going to be as strong and tall? He's going to cause headaches for defensive coordinators.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have the twitchy athleticism that you would maybe like, but you can't argue with the production, and you can see how that translates to the NFL level. He's more of a really lanky power strider. It's the movement's fluid, but it's not necessarily a powerful leg drive. And sometimes it looks like he's just jogging on the spot because he's
like a gallop. It's a wee gallop, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's like a galloping horse, is Harold Fanning. But yeah, a dominant tight end at the college level.
A galloping horse, dominant tight end.
So watch Harold Fanning. His strides are so strange to watch, but it's effective because players just can't seem to get him down.
Where did you have him?
3. That would have helped, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, just checking. Sorry, Brian.
Oh, it's all right. Just past it, maybe. Who's your number 2 then, Ryan?
My number 2 is Colston Loveland from Michigan. An outstanding athlete who is, again, one of the predominantly receiving tight end, who is going to create and terrorize mismatches in the NFL, 6'5", 245 pounds, above average athleticism, above average size, really good run after catch ability. He's able to burst and through his routes. He doesn't hesitate through the catch. Is able to carry that momentum into contact to bounce off it and to carry into space. Vertical speed and twitchy speed too. There are some drops on tape, and I still think he is growing into his body. I wouldn't be surprised if he does end up putting on a bit of weight. But for what he offers as a passing option, I think he would be a first-round pick. But he's not going to offer a great deal as a blocker right now. I don't think he has the strength profile to do that. But as a passing option, he has an exceptional catch radius and production in his 3 years at Michigan to think that his route running and his alignment versatility will carry across to the NFL level.
Yeah, he is also number 2 for me. Are you going to want Colston Loveland to take on the likes of Myles Garrett on the edge?
Mm-hmm.
No. Are you going to want Colston Loveland to terrorize linebackers? Absolutely. He is a really good athlete for someone. He plays like we talk about these big slot oversized receivers, and that's what Colston Loveland is. His route run is really good for a tight end. He's got those sudden stop start ability. He sometimes just burns linebackers with it. He's a dangerous threat up the seam. He's got a real aggressive nature after the catch as well. You can move him around. As I say, he can play as an inline tight end, but you can put him in the slot. You can match him up on the outside if you wanted to as well. He isn't going to be that guy who gets down in his stance and blocks defensive players and adds an extra lineman. That's just not his game. If you're picking him to do that, you're probably picking him to play in the wrong role. But as another passing weapon in a game that we're increasingly seeing, we're looking for mismatch options. Colston Loveland is a mismatch option.
Okie dokie. Leaves us with a joint number 1, which is nice. Stu, you can have the honours.
Unless Owain has gone completely off piste, it's Tyler Warren. Is a tight end number 1 for me. He's a bit more of a do-it-all tight end compared to Loveland. He has got from the passing game. He's really good at finding that soft spots in coverage, and he's got a nice catch radius. He can go past defenders. He's got a really long stride pattern. It's not blazing speed, but once he gets up ahead of steam, that long stride can take him away from people. He had a background of playing as quarterback, so he is able to have understands how to use defenders' leverage against them. He's really able to box out and high point throws in the red zone with good body control. He's got reliable hands, and he can maintain the focus. When he gets clattered, he still can withstand that. Again, he is definitely a better blocker than a lot of these tight ends as well, and he will block his backside off. Again, tight ends, they're not expecting tackle level of pass protection and things, but he's more than willing to do the dirty work as well. He's been talked of going very highly in this draft.
Yeah, I think he's best categorized as a dynamic offensive weapon rather than being a singular tight end, because his ability to line up as a receiver, as a running back, as a quarterback even, was even throwing passes at Penn State this past season. He is the figurehead of the Penn State offense, and you can see how that would translate to being a figurehead of an NFL passing attack, because his athleticism, his catch radius, his route running is a lot more refined and nuanced than I think people anticipate. He's elusive after the catch as well. He has the athleticism to hurdle over players, to fight through traffic over the middle of the field. Yes, you might want him to improve some blocking, but you're not drafting a tight end in the top 10 to be a blocker. You're drafting him to be a difference maker on offense, and Tyler Warren is equipped to do all those things because of the catch radius, because of his ball tracking. He is just exceptional in everything he does, and I think he, if paired with a young quarterback, could be the difference between a young quarterback succeeding or failing, because he's the type of weapon that young quarterbacks need. A tight end who is a safety blanket that can be explored. His connection with the Colts keeps coming up time and time and again because they need a tight end, and because what Anthony Richardson does, that would open things right up. I'd actually at this point be surprised if he even made it to the Colts at 14, because in my eyes that's a top 10 player.
Yeah, I wonder, we've not really talked about, and we might talk about it in the future, about trading up and trading players. He's a player that I could see somebody trading up from. We don't see that often for a tight end, but I'm thinking of somebody a team with a young quarterback, for example, the Broncos. I think he would just be, he would just, Bo Nix would just love him, and I think, if teams are wanting to look at that kind of thing, he is that type of player that in a draft where there's not a lot of stars, that if somebody wants to gather some assets, Tyler Warren might be a target.
Yeah, Sean Payton's offense is built upon difference makers at running back and tight end, and that's what Tyler Warren is. Everything that Sean Payton ever did trying to attack the tight end position with the Saints, and he did some crazy things there with Taysom Hill. We'll draft him later on and turn him into a tight end. Tyler Warren is just what he needed all the way along.
There we go. Good stuff, guys, as always. Any more names we need to keep an eye out for? Thereabouts?
It's quite a deep group, actually. I think you'll see a lot of players coming in day 3. So Luke Lachey from Iowa, I really liked as well, coming off injuries, but I think offers a nice, well-rounded skill set. You might even see some converts over as well. Orlando Gadsden, who's mostly played receiver, I could see him being converted to tight end at the next level. It's a Terrence Ferguson at Oregon, Mitchell Evans at Notre Dame. There's a host of names, but I think you'd be edging more towards the day 3 side. The mute button's been pressed again.
Mute button, go away. And just a couple of other names that kind of are floating about that you might think about as well. Brant Kuith.
Yeah.
So it's how you say. I'm not sure how you say that. The tight end from Utah.
Yeah, injuries with him.
He's an injury guy, but he's one of these big slot type receiver tight ends as well. Terrence Ferguson as well. Did you mention him, Owen? I didn't know if you caught him. Yeah, from Oregon's another player who's going to be a day 3. So there's a decent group of draftable tight ends. We've gone through 9, 10, 11 or so there of names that are going to get drafted in that first, between round 1 and 4 or 5. Yeah. So it's a good year to grab a reasonable tight end, I think.
Good stuff. Great. Well, before we finish, guys, can you remind everyone of your top 5s, please?
Yeah, so I had Gunnar Helm from Texas at 4. Harold Fanning of Bowling Green at 5. Thank you. Harold Fanning of Bowling Green at 4. Mason Taylor of LSU at 3. Colston Loveland of Michigan at 2. And Tyler Warren of Penn State at 1.
Yeah, and I had Mason Taylor at 5, Elijah Arroyo at 4, 3 was Harold Fannin, 2 was Colston Loveland, and 1 was Tyler Warren.
There we go. Thank you very much. Another top 5 done. We can't have that many left, don't we? But we have
four groups left.
Good stuff. And then we'll have, in between it, we'll have all sorts of talk as we get closer to the draft. Being the Draft Talk podcast, that's kind of what we do. But yes, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back soon. Check out our previous episodes if you haven't already. And take care of yourselves. Goodbye.